Shalom, beloveds of the King. Here we are again today where we're going to come and we continue our looking at this absolute, profound, prophetic book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah. And today we're going to continue as we look at chapter 34. And this again is a prophetic utterance that is going to be the Father's judgment against the nations. Let us pray. Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you. I thank you, my Father, for the profound messages that you have through the verses where we truly look at this book line upon line, precept upon precept, line upon line, command upon command, and where you speak your prophetic words, and especially in this book where you say, in this chapter, search from the scroll. And so Yeshayahu is a scroll that has been written by your mouth, because your mouth speaks and he is writing what your mouth is speaking. And so I praise and I thank you, Abba Yahuwah, that we look at this thousands of years ago that Yeshayahu was able to prophesy these prophecies and how they speak, that they are relevant to us in this day. And at the same time, they are speaking that is going to be for a prophetic time that even confirms things that is to take place in the book of Revelation, and where other things that is being spoken today, it speaks prophetically to today. And so, Father, I just want to thank you. I thank you that we can commit this time to you. I thank you that you can come and speak to my mind, speak through my heart, speak to my heart, speak through my lips, Abba Yahuwah, the very oracles that will come from your heart, and open up open up our ears, open up our eyes, that we may hear, that we may see the very things that you want to be able to prophetically reveal to us through your prophet. I praise and I thank you for this in Yahushua's name. I pray this. Amen. So we are looking at Isaiah 34, and Yari says, "Come near, you nations, to hear and listen, you people. Let the earth hear, and all that is in it, the world and all its offspring." So you see, he is saying that we are all to draw near. So now he's speaking to the nations, and he's telling the nations that they are to come and draw near, that they are to come and listen to what he is about to declare. And so if we have a look at Psalm 49, 1 to 3, let's go look at Psalm 49. In Psalm 49, verses 1 to 3, he says, "Hear this, all you people. Give ear, all you inhabitants of the world." So here again, he is speaking for us to give ear. "All you inhabitants of the world, both sons of mankind and sons of man, rich and poor together. My mouth speaks wisdom, and the meditation of my heart brings understanding. I incline my ear to a parable. I expound my riddle to the lie. Why should I fear in the days of evil, when the crookedness of my supplanters surround me? Those who are trusting in their riches and who are boasting in their great wealth." So you see, the ones that are putting their trust and their faith in everything that this world has got to offer, it is not going to help them. And so that's why he says, "A brother does not redeem anyone at all, neither give to allure a ransom for him. For the redemption of their lives is costly, and it shall cease forever. That he should still live forever and not see the pit. For he sees wise men die, the foolish and the ignorant both perish, and shall leave their wealth to others." So at the end of the day, men and woman and the people of the earth are so bound in having to sit and gather for themselves the wealth in this world. But what is he saying? Tomorrow your life can be taken from you. And who is going to be able to enjoy your wealth? Those that stay behind, those that will be able to be the ones that are going to use it. So he says, what is the point of you being able to sit and gather all these things in this life? And that is why he's saying, for the displeasure of Yahuwah is against all nations, and his wrath against all their divisions. He shall put them under the ban. He shall give them over to the slaughter. So he will gather mankind to give ear to what he's going to speak out of his mouth. And then he starts to speak, for the anger of Yahuwah is against all the nations. His wrath is upon all the armies. He will totally destroy them. He will give them over to slaughter. So you must understand, because these kings of the earth, this is what they are about. Like if you take the pharmaceutical companies right now, it is just to be able to come and get the people to be so reliant on them and their medication, and it's all about the wealth and the money. And so the kings of this earth are they're wanting to kill, destroy, control, and it's all about the more money that they are able to gather. And this is why we're under such oppression. We're under such oppression because this is the very people that are wanting to destroy the earth, and it's all because of the wealth. Because when will enough be enough for this elite of this earth? That is why they want to be able to wipe out as much of the population as what they can, because the less population there is, the more they can control. And this is part of the plan. And so we have a look and we see where he says the displeasure of Yahuwah is against all nations, and his wrath is against all their divisions. Their divisions is their armies. And so he will give them over to slaughter, and he will be able to bring total destruction. So if we look at Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 11, let's go look at Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 11. This is already spoken for, where he says, for I am with you, declares Yahuwah, to save you, though I make a complete end of all nations. Where I have scattered you, yet I do not make a complete end of you. But I shall reprove you in judgment, and by no means leave you unpunished. So yeah, he's saying, even those that are his people are going to come under the judgment, are going to come under this persecution and under the chastising hand of Abba Yahuwah. So understand, if we are not going to be totally and utterly set apart, then that chastising is coming even to his people. Even to his people, they're going to come under the judgment of Abba Yahuwah's way. In Zephaniah, let's have a look at Zephaniah 3 verses 8 to 9. Zephaniah chapter 3 verses 8 to 9, and it says, and therefore wait for me, declares Yahuwah, until the day I raise up for plunder, for my judgment is to gather nations, to assemble reigns, to pour out on them my rage, all my burning wrath, for by the fire of my jealousy all the earth shall be consumed. For then I shall turn unto the people a clean lip. Wow. So what is that clean lip? That clean lip is a pure language, a speech, a talk, words. So that pure language, that clean lip is a pure language. It's our speech needs to change. Our language needs to change. It's not just talking about language per se. It's talking about the words that we speak. It's talking about the talk that we talk. It's talking about the speech, because listen to what he says, so that they all call on the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one shoulder. so that they can all call. So you see, he needs to clean up our mouths. He needs to clean up our mouths. And this is exactly what he said in Hosea. So if we go look at Hosea chapter 2, what does he say? So he says he's going to clean up our talk. He's going to clean up our mouths. Why? Because in Hosea chapter 2 verse 16 he says, and it shall be in that day, declares Yahuwah, that you shall call me my husband and no longer call me my Baal, my Lord, my Baal. And I shall remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. So he needs to clean our lip. He needs to give us a new, to clean the lip. He needs to be able to bring the pure language of the truth upon our lips, that we will stop speaking Adonai and Lord and God and Jesus and all these words that we've been speaking, all the names of these other mighty ones and titles that we have given Abba Yahuwah, as opposed to being able to speak the words and the speech and the talk that brings glory to his name, because it's bringing the restating his name, bringing clarity, bringing the name once again, speaking that name. So that's why he says, for then I shall turn unto a people. He's going to turn to a people, not all people. He's turning to a people. Who are the people? The people with a clean lip, so that they call on the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one shoulder. Why? Because once we all take on that name, we all become one in him. There's no division. We are one. And this is what the Father is busy doing. And so that's why he says, from beyond the rivers of Cush, my worshippers, the daughters of my dispersed ones, shall bring my offering. Why? Because then they shall have the truth upon their lips, and they will worship him in spirit and in truth. And so we have a look at Zechariah chapter 14. So let's look at Zechariah chapter 14. In Zechariah chapter 14, he says, verses 2 to 4, and I shall gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem, and the city shall be taken, the houses plundered, and the woman ravished. Half of the city shall go into exile, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And Yahuwah shall go forth, and he shall fight against those nations as he fights in the day of battle. Now, when is this? Listen to when this is. And in that day his feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two, from east to west, a great valley, and half of the mountain shall move towards the north, and half of it towards the south. So you see, this is going to happen right at the end, when he is going to be able to bring his judgment, and I shall gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. And those are his own people. And this is at the end. This is not talking at the time of Babylon. This is talking at the end. And then we have a look at Daniel 2. Daniel chapter 2 verses 44, and it says, and in the days of these sovereigns, the allure of the heavens shall set up a reign which shall never be destroyed. So you see, then he is going to set up, so there's going to be a judgment that's going to come. So in those days, the sovereigns of Yahuwah of the heavens shall set up a reign which shall never be destroyed, nor the reign pass on to other people. It crushes and puts an end all the reigns, and it shall stand forever. So the reign of Yahuwah is going to stand forever. Not all these other kingdoms, all these kingdoms are going to come to an end. And that's why we have a look at Revelation chapter 11 verses 15. Let's have a look at Revelation chapter 11, verse 15, and it says, and the seventh messenger sounded, and there came to be loud voices in heaven, saying, the reign of this world has become the reign of our Master and of his Messiah, and he shall reign forever and ever. So he is going to be able to bring forth his reign, as he's going to be able to judge the nations of the world. Isaiah chapter 34 verses 3, and it says, "And their slain be thrown out, and their stench rise from the corpses, and the mountains shall be melted, and their blood." So at the end of the day, we will see that this is exactly what is going to happen. So if we have a look and we see, let's just read verse 4, "And all the hosts of heaven shall rot away, and all the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll, and all the host fade like a leaf fading on the vine, and like the fading one of the fig tree." So if we have a look, Isaiah 34 verses 3 is a graphic explanation, "And the slain be thrown out, and their stench rise from their corpses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood." This is graphic. This is absolutely the destruction that's going to come at the last days. And we read this even yesterday as we work through the sixth seal, and when the heavens are going to roll back like a scroll. Let's go have a look at Revelation chapter 6, verses 13 to 14, because this is when he is really going to bring his destruction upon the earth in the sixth seal. And in the sixth seal we will read from Revelation chapter 12, and it says, Revelation 6 verse 12, "And I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and saw a great earthquake come to be, and the sun became black as sackcloth and of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of the heavens fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its unripe figs, being shaken by a strong wind." So you see, it's just like when the wind blows, like today we've had the wind blowing hectic over here. And as this wind blows, the wind can be so strong. I mean, we have had wind that's been so strong that it's almost uprooted the one tree. And so the wind blows so strong that it will actually blow the fruit to the ground. That's why he's saying these unripe figs. So it's the figs that are not even ripe yet, but they are falling to the ground because of this wind, because of the shaking of the strong wind. "And heaven departed like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place." And this is exactly what we are seeing that is being spoken of here in Yeshayahu 34 verses 4, "And all the hosts of heaven shall rot away, and the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll, and all their host fade like a leaf fading on the vine, and like the fading one of a fig tree." And then we have a look at verse 5. "For my sword shall be drenched in the heavens. Look, it comes down on Edom and on the people of my curse for judgment." So understand, many times Edom was the Edomites, that was basically the people that came from Esau. And Esau is everything that is symbolic of the flesh. So understand, Jacob dwelt in the tents of the father, but Esau was a hunter. So Esau represents the people that come from Nimrod. They represent Nimrod's kind of people. And what does Nimrod's name mean? Nimrod's name means rebellion or valiant. So it's everything. When he talks about Eden, he's talking about a people. Eden are those mountains that are red in Petra. They are in, it's the mountains of Petra, and the rocks are red, and they are Edom, like Adam, that are red, that come from the ground, that are representing everything that has to do with the flesh of man. all these that are fleshly and they're not spirit filled and being led by the Spirit of Yahuwah, they are the flesh beings being led by their flesh, which means they take on the nature of Hasatan, and this is Edom, and this is everything. That's why there was two brothers. There was Esau and there was Jacob, just like there was Cain and there was Abel. Cain was according to the flesh. He acted according to the flesh, and that's why he murdered his brother, because he did what the flesh desired to do. He didn't offer the father the sacrifice of the first fruits of his land. He offered him any sacrifice, and because of that, the father did not accept his offering, because he wanted to serve the father in his own way, in his flesh. There is a way that seems right unto man, but its way will lead to death. And so Abel did what is right, and therefore Father blessed him, and he did not bless Cain, because Cain was a man after the flesh, and that is why he then murdered his brother. And that's why if you look at Jacob and Esau, Jacob loved to dwell in the tents of his father. But Esau was a wild man that wanted to be in the fields and wanted to hunt wild game. And he had the nature of Nimrod, which comes from the descendants that comes from, with Noah's descendants of, oh my goodness, now I'm just, it comes from the descendants that come from Ham. So you've got Canaan, so therefore there's Ham, and it's the descendants that come from Ham, Ham's descendants, and that is what Ham himself was, the one that looked upon his father's nakedness and therefore acted from the flesh. And so that is why this Edom, when he talks about Edom, he's talking about the flesh. He's talking about Adam, that is coming from the ground, that is coming from the land, that is coming from this red sand, that is Adam, that is Edom, that is red, that is the flesh. And so that is why he's speaking, for my sword shall be drenched in the heavens. Look, it comes down on Edom, on the people of my curse. So do you see? They will be those that receive the curse of the Father. Why? Why? Because they are flesh beings. They take on the nature of Hasatan, because everything of the flesh, and if we operate according to the flesh and we are not saturated with the presence and the Ruach and the Holy Spirit, the set-apart Spirit of Yahuwah, then we are of the flesh and we will receive the curse of the Father. And it says, and on the people of my curse for judgment. The sword of Yahuwah shall be filled with blood. So the sword of Yahuwah shall be filled with blood. It shall be made... It shall be filled with blood. It shall be made overflowing with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of the rams. For Yahuwah has a slaughtering on Bosra, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. So you see, once again, this is all symbolic. It's symbolic of a people that are of the flesh, a people that stand against him, a people that do not follow his ways, a people that are fleshly, a people that are not following Abba Yahuwah's ways. And so that is why, if we have a look at Deuteronomy, already right in the beginning, he was already speaking about the sword that was going to be drawn out against the people that are going to stand against him. And so if we look at Deuteronomy chapter 32 from verses 41 to 42, and it says, if I have sharpened my flashing sword, and my hand takes hold on judgment, I shall return vengeance on my enemies. So understand, all of those that are not going to follow Abba Yahuwah and submit and surrender to him and to his ways, they will be his enemies. and repay those who hate me. I make my arrows drunk with the blood, and my sword devours flesh, with the blood of the slain and the captives from the long-haired enemy chiefs. And that's why he says, O nations, acclaim his people, for he avenges the blood of his servants. So understand, this is going to be what is going to happen in the book of Revelation, because remember, in Revelation chapter 6, when we look at the fifth seal, there are those that are at the bottom of the slaughter altar. There are the bodies of those that are under the slaughter altar, because they are the martyrs that have been martyred and slain, and they have been brutally killed for their faith, for the truth, for them following the truth of Yahuwah. So he says, O nations, acclaim his people, for he avenges the blood of his servants and returns vengeance to his adversaries, and shall pardon his land, his people. So you see, those who are truly his, those who truly follow after him, those are the ones that will be spared. But the others, and there are many that have been martyred, but he will avenge their blood, because they are the ones saying, how long before you avenge our blood? And he says, not until the fullness of the number of them that need to come in will come in. So if we have a look, I'm busy quoting the scripture, but I always like to read so that we can see what scripture says. And if we go to Revelation chapter 6 and we have a look at verse 9, and he says, and when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the slaughter place the beings of those having been slain for the word of Elohim and for the witness which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Master, set apart and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth. So understand, this is when the Father then judges and avenges their blood. And he says, and there was given to each one a white robe, and they were told that they should rest a little while longer, until both the number of their fellow servants and their brothers, who would be killed as they were, was completed. So you see, this is what we see. Now we have a look at Jeremiah chapter 46 verses 10. So in Jeremiah chapter 46 verse 10, he speaks about the sword of judgment again, and he says, and for this is the day of the Master Yahuwah of hosts, a day of vengeance, to revenge himself on his adversaries. So you see, the last thing that we want is to make an enemy of our Father. For those that make an enemy of our Father, it's not going to end well. And so he says, for this is the day of the Master Yahuwah of hosts, a day of vengeance, to revenge himself on his adversaries. And the sword shall devour and be satisfied and made drunk with their blood. For the Master Yahuwah of hosts has a slaughtering in the land of the north by the river Euphrates. So this is him that is going to be able to avenge. And then if we have a look at Ezekiel, so if we look at Ezekiel 21 verses 5, and Ezekiel 21 verses 5 says, and all flesh shall know that I, Yahuwah, have drawn my sword out of its sheath, not to turn back again. So understand, all the world will know, all the nations of the world will know that it is Abba Yahuwah, the one who is going to be able to draw his sword, to be able to bring destruction. I mean, if he can say in verse 3 that their slain will be thrown out and their stench rise from their corpses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood, imagine the amount of people that are going to be killed. I don't think we have an understanding. And can you imagine the prophet being able to maybe even see in the spirit what he's having to prophesy out of his mouth? It must be hectic for what he was able to see. And so he says, verse 7, 34 verse 7, and the wild ox shall come down with them, and the young bulls with bulls, and their land shall be drenched with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. So understand, this is the amount of blood. The land shall be drenched with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. So this is how many bodies. I don't know if any of you ever saw the movie of the when all those people that were killed in the war, the Hutsis and the Tutsis, it was in Africa. I can't remember now which country it was in, but it was hectic. There were more than 1 million people that died, and these, I don't know if it was in Ghana, but there was a terrible war that took place. And there were bodies, as I remember watching this movie, and the car was riding over the bodies, and it was just bodies everywhere. As there was more than 1 million people that was killed in this war, and it was hectic to be able to see what happened in this war that took place against 2 tribes that happened in Africa. And so we have a look and we continue to read verse 8. For it is the day of the vengeance. For it is the day of the vengeance of Yahuwah, the year of recompense for the cause of Zion. So we must understand that the Father has a day of recompense. He has a day of when He is going to recompense that which I mean, if you just think of what's going on upon the earth right now, with the amount of bloodshed that is taking place just on the aborted babies being aborted almost up to 9 months, just what's going on there, just what is going on there, that we look at this. So there is a day when He is going to be able to have a day of His vengeance. There is a day that He is going to have vengeance, and a year of the recompense for the cause of Zion. So He is going to take vengeance on that which has happened, on that which is going on. Because how long do you think that the Father can continue to look upon the things that is going on the earth and not have to, He's not going to be able to stand. And that's why I'm saying I don't understand, because we cannot continue to be able to look upon the things that are going on. How long before the Father comes and brings His judgments? He has to judge that which is going on upon the earth. And this is why we must understand that the Father will be able to, He cannot continue to allow mankind to continue to carry on the way that they do without Him being able to bring His judgments upon the earth. I've just remembered that movie about all those people in Africa. It was Rwanda. It was in Rwanda, and the movie was called Hotel Rwanda. And it was hectic, the amount of people that actually died in that movie. And this is why when we look at something like that, then we think, no, it cannot be possible that these things can happen. But that was that was real. That really happened. And so this is why I say, Father cannot sit back and continue to allow people to do what they do, and He's not going to bring His judgments. I don't know if you saw this Commonwealth. They had the Commonwealth Games, and then they had the whole. When they do the inauguration of, when they have a whole ceremony that they do. So it's actually a ceremony. It was a demonic ceremony, an entire demonic ceremony of when they were elating a calf. Nothing different to the golden calf that happened at Mount Sinai as the Father had given them, He was coming down and going to give them the commands, and then they have just received His commands on Mount Sinai, and now Moses goes back up, and then what do? They build a golden calf. And this is where we are again. People are building their own golden calves and worshipping it. And what we saw taking place before our very eyes is where mankind is today. They are rebelling against the Father in every area of their lives. They want to live their own lives and do their own thing. And this is why Father is going to bring his judgments upon the earth. And that's why we read Psalm 68. Let's read Psalm 68. Psalm 68, verse 30, and it says, rebuke the wild beasts of the reeds, the herds of the bulls with the calves of the people, each one humbling himself with pieces of silver. Scatter the peoples who delight in conflicts. He's going to scatter the people that delight in war and battle. Is this not where we are today? Every single nation is just ready with their nuclear weapons because they're just getting ready to see when they can fire their nuclear weapons at each other. And he's saying, each one humbling himself with pieces of silver. So it's all about their money and their riches. And then they scatter the people who delight in conflicts, in war and battles. And this is what we see going on in the earth at this point in time. And so that is why he's got a day of recompense. It's the day of his vengeance. It's when he is going to be able to bring vengeance upon the nations of the earth. And that's why if we look at Isaiah chapter 63, Isaiah chapter 63 verse 4, he says, for a day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed has come. So he has a day of his vengeance, and that is in his heart. And the year of my redeemed has come. So you must understand, he is he's been very patient. But it's like I say, how long before his patience has run out? Because I know that from last year, all the prophetic words that the Father kept getting me to be able to write through my hand, he was giving me many prophetic words that I have written through my hand. And all the prophetic words is about his judgments coming, about the fact that he's going to shake heaven and earth. So his judgments are coming upon the earth. Verse 9, and its streams shall be turned into tar, and its dust into sulfur, and its land shall become burning tar, that is not quenched night or day, its smoke going up forever. From generation to generation it lies waste. No one passes through it forever and ever. So this is again future. You see, all this that we are reading is future. And so this sounds, if you read it, it almost sounds like a volcano that is erupting. And it says, and its streams shall be turned into tar, and its dust into sulfur, and its land shall become burning tar. So you see, what is he seeing? What is Isaiah seeing? Is Isaiah seeing something that to him he understood tar? But when a volcano starts to be able to go, it's covering everything and it looks like a burning tar that is not quenched night and day. So where have we read this about this not being quenched night and day? So if we look at Revelation chapter 14, let's go look at Revelation chapter 14. Revelation 14 verses 9 to 11. And it says, and a third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark upon his forehead or upon his hand, he also shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he shall be tortured with fire and sulfur before the set apart messengers and before the Lamb. So you see, this is why I'm saying this is already speaking prophetically to that which is coming at the end, to that which is already written in the book of Revelation, because he's talking about a people that is like Edom. So you could look at this as he was talking about what was going to happen in terms of where he was declaring the judgment that it was going to come through Babylon. But at the same time, this is talking about a future time of complete destruction when Babylon is going to fall and it's not going to be inhabited again. And the fact that this is going to be for a people that are so rebellious, a people that have turned against him, a people that are not willing to follow him, a people that are going to bow down to a beast system. And so listen to what he says. And he shall be tortured with fire and sulfur before the set-apart messengers and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever. And they have no rest day or night, those worshipping the beast and his image. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name. So yeah, already Isaiah is looking into the future where he says, from generation to generation it lies waste. No one passes through it forever and ever. And there is going to be day and night. There will be smoke going up forever. So this is going to be when this final Babylon is going to be destroyed. The city, this harlot city that has been that drinks this cup that is spoken of in Revelation chapter 18. And so we have a look and we continue to read from verse 11, and it says, so that the pelican and the porcupine possesses it, also the owl and the raven dwell in it. And he shall stretch out over it the line of formlessness and stones of emptiness. So you must understand, I'm going to explain to you that this is, understand, he was seeing a prophecy that's going to come to the city of Babylon, but this is also future, for the future Babylon. And I will explain to you why, because I saw a documentary that was on the ancient city of Babel. And this ancient city of Babel, this is exactly, these verses absolutely confirm what is of the ancient city of Babel. But at the same time, this is being spoken for a future time of a future Babylon that is going to be destroyed. And so that the pelican and the porcupine possesses it, and the owl and the raven dwell in it, and he who stretches over it, the lion of formlessness and stones of emptiness. Its caves with no one in them is called a reign, but all its rulers have vanished. So you see, all those kings of the earth are going to mourn. We know because it says in Revelation chapter 18, if we go have a look at chapter 18, and we see where he says in Revelation 18 from verses 20, rejoice over her, O heavens, you set apart emissaries and prophets. Allah has completely avenged you on her. So you see how he says there's a day of his recompense. He will avenge. And one mighty messenger picked up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, with such a rush, the great city Babel shall be thrown down and shall not be found any more at all. And the sound of the harpists and the musicians and the flutists and the trumpeters shall not be heard in you any more at all, and no craftsman of any trade shall be found in you any more at all, and the sound of a millstone shall not be heard in you any more at all, and the light of the lamp shall not shine in you any more at all, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall not be heard in you any more at all, for your merchants were the great ones of the earth, for by your drug sorcery all the nations were led astray. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and the set-apart ones and of all who were slain on the earth. So you see, he will avenge the blood of those that have been slain. And so if you look and you see verse 18, verse 2, and he says, and he cried with a mighty voice, saying, Babel the great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a haunt for every for every unclean spirit, and a haunt for every unclean and hated bird. Because the nations, all the nations, have drank of the wine of the wrath of her whoring, and the sovereigns of the earth have committed whoring with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the power of her righteous living. So you see, these are the merchants that have become wealthy through it. And it says, its caves with no one in them is called a rain, but all its rulers have vanished, because the Father is going to destroy them. And the thorn shall come up in its places, nettles and brambles in its strongholds, and it shall be a home for jackals, a courtyard for ostriches. And the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the jackals, and the shaggy goat called to its companion. The night creature shall also settle there, and shall find for herself a place of rest. And the arrow snake shall nest there, and lay eggs and hatch and gather them under her shadow. There too the vultures shall gather, each with its mate. So I saw a documentary a few weeks ago on the city of Babel, on the ancient city of Babel, where this man went and he was going to, he went to the city of Babel, an archaeologist. And it was amazing because exactly what is written in these verses is what you find there in that ancient city of Babel. Nothing is inhabited. It is a city of jackals. It is a place of the vultures. It is a place of, he even read the scriptures of what is written in the Bible that would be of the city of Babel. And this is exactly what it is. It's been, they haven't developed that land at all. Nothing is built there, nothing. It's only got the ruins of the palace that was there before, and everything on the outskirts of that place is developed. But that very area where the city of Babel used to be, nothing grows there. It is a place of jackals, it is the place of ostriches, it is a place of these animals. This is the place that is there. And so, just like he has spoken, now listen to what he says in verse 16, because this is profound what he's saying over here, because he is prophesying it, and he's saying, it shall be what I have said, because the Father is the one speaking it. And it says, search from the book of Yahuwah, and read, not one of these shall be missing, not one shall be without a mate. So understand, nothing of what he's spoken is going to go without. What he has said will surely be searched through his scriptures, in his scroll. Not one of these details of the prophecy shall fail. None shall lack fulfillment. Because that which Isaiah has spoken through the mouth, the Father has spoken through the mouth of this prophet Isaiah, and not one of the details, not one of these details of the prophecy that has been spoken shall fail. None shall lack fulfillment. He has spoken by the prophet's mouth, and it's the Father's mouth has commanded it, and his Spirit has gathered them. And so understand, he is the one who's going to do what he said he will do. And when I saw that documentary, it brings this verse to life. Because search the scriptures, and you will see that which he spoke shall surely come to pass. And this, if he spoke it, and if it was for ancient Babel, it shall be for the future Babylon that is going to come now. That when he says, come out of her, my people, because he's going to judge. So if we find ourselves in a Babylonian system, and we find ourselves in this mixed seed of Babylon, which is everything that is standing for rebellion, it is everything that stands for the mixed seed, it is everything that stands for confusion and mixing, and we mix ourselves. It's the mixture of everything. And if we are going to be able to stand for that, we must understand that the Father's judgment is going to come upon us. I remember watching, this morning I watched a little video that came up on one of the groups, and it was this man that went into a store to be able to buy a Barbie doll and for his daughter. And the box that were on the shelf, it said a family unit. It was called a family unit. And the family unit box was two male Barbies, Ken, two male Barbies, which are Ken. Two males with a son and a daughter, and the little things inside there that was for, a little pram, a little thing for the family unit. And you hear this man going up to the salesman there and saying, "Excuse me, do you not have any box of a normal family with a mother and a father, with a husband and a wife?" He says, "No, this is what is on the shelves and this is what we have." That's what we have. From where have we fallen? Since when is a family unit made up of two males? Do you see from where have we fallen? And so we are living in a time like it was of Sodom and Gomorrah. I think we passed Sodom and Gomorrah already. And so therefore, what can we expect? We can only expect Abba Yahuwah's judgment, and that's why he says in verse 17, "And he shall cast the lot for them, and his hand shall divide it among them with a measuring line." So he's measuring everything. They possess it forever, from generation to generation they shall dwell in it. So you must understand this scripture. It talks about how the animals are going to dwell in this land forever, but at the same time it's also going to speak about the fact that he's going to cast his lot, and he's going to divide among them with a measuring line, and he will have his city demarcated, and he's going to bring his judgment, and he's going to bring destruction upon those that are not going to. So you see, who is going to leave the earth? Those that are going to be destroyed. He's going to pluck them out of the earth because he's going to bring his destruction. So may Abba Yahuwah bless you all. As when we read scriptures like this, all we can do is humble ourselves before the Father and repent and ask him to be able to, to do great introspection within our hearts and see if there's anything within us that is still rebelling against him, that is not in obedience to him, that we will check our own hearts and check our own lives, as we are in a time now leading up to the fall feasts when it's a fruit harvest and Father is wanting us to produce fruit. So may we humble our hearts before him in order for him to be able to shine a magnifying glass and be able to reveal to us what is there that is maybe still not pleasing to him. May Abba Yahuwah bless you all. Shavua Tov, and may you all have a blessed week. Shalom, shalom.